Hello everybody, this is Mrxfix here. I hope you're all doing well. This is my first D&D video in a long time, but I'm glad to be doing another one. This theory is actually in response to the comment that was left on my Peasant Railgun video I did almost a year ago. Mrxfix has posted that he uses a little something dubbed the Bag of Splinters. It is a fairly easy concept. You first get a bag of holding, then fill it with arrows or daggers. Once you have an enemy in sight, you turn the bag inside out, dropping the contents on their head and rolling massive damage. I started to think about how much damage one can actually deal with this new trick. First we have to find out the dimensions of the bag of holding. Thankfully this was given to us in a volumetric number of 64 foot cubed of space. Just for some perspective, this is about 11 barrels of gasoline, which would hold over 460 gallons of fluid. First let's look at how many daggers we can fit into the bag. For simplicity and calculations, I'm assuming these daggers are more like shivs and don't have a handguard. Doing a quick Google search, the average dagger length is 8.5 inches and has an area of 1.48 inches squared. Again, we're going to ignore the fact that one end of the dagger will go to a point because although I like math, that's just a lot of math. This means that a dagger has a volume of 12.62 inches cubed or 0.007 foot cubed. Taking this number, we can divide the amount of space we can store by the volume of the dagger to find out how many daggers we can actually hold. Rounding down because you can't use half a dagger, the bag can hold 8,766 daggers. Now a dagger doing 1d4 damage, on average will net you 2.5 damage. If you don't believe me, I explained the damage averages in my class video. So on average, a bag of splinters, full of daggers, would do 21,915 piercing damage. Let's run it back with the arrows to see which one is better. Using the same sort of assumptions, we find that an average arrow length is 34 inches with an area of 0.93 inches squared. This gives us a volume of 0.0018 feet cubed, which means that our bag of holding can hold a whopping 35,066 arrows. Now, if you were smart, you would have known there is another caveat in the description for the bag of holding. It states that a bag of holding cannot exceed a volume of 64 feet cubed and must not exceed a weight of 500 pounds. Of course, I didn't read this at first, so basically I did all that math for fun. So now we have to figure out how many of each item we can use within the 500 pound limit. Since the player's handbook says that a dagger is 1 pound, we can hold 500 daggers. We look again to the player's handbook to see that 20 arrows is 1 pound. This means each arrow is 0.05 pounds, letting us hold 10,000 arrows. By sheer numbers alone, it should be obvious you should pick the arrows. But like I said, I actually like doing the math. So with a bag of daggers, you average 1,250 damage. And then with the bag of arrows, you would average 35,000 damage. So we got our damage tallies, but now let's figure out how far we need to be in the air to produce this damage. If you recall from physics, the speed of an object is equal to the distance the object travels over the time it takes for that object to travel the distance. We are trying to find distance, so we'll be multiplying speed and time together. The speed of an average arrow goes at 225 feet per second, and we know an average turn is 6 seconds. So to find out how high we need to be to achieve the speed that does 1d6 worth of damage, it turns out we have to be 1,350 feet above our opponent. Since fly gives you a fly speed of 60 feet per round, assuming you use your dash action, it would only take you 11 turns to get this high in the air. Now let's look at the dagger. The average dagger is thrown at 41 feet per second. So doing the same math, we find out you have to be 246 feet above your enemy. It would only take you a little over 3 turns to get to this height. Although you can store more arrows, which means more damage, it will be a lot harder to get to the height needed to do the proper amount of damage. All of our calculations were also happening in a vacuum. If you took in the wind speed, air resistance, and the fact that objects are going to spread out when they're falling, it would be hard for you to hit a majority of the arrows on the target. With the dagger, it wouldn't be as bad because you're far closer to the ground, and since the daggers weigh more, it would hopefully help reduce the spread. Now you decide you want to go through with the bag of splinters despite its faults. How much is this going to cost you? Well, a bag of holding should only cost you 300 gold. Next, you're going to have a factory to make all those daggers or arrows. Not including labor for all the weapons needed, it would cost you 1,000 gold for 500 daggers, or 500 gold for 10,000 arrows. And now, not adjusting for supply and demand, at most, a bag of splinters would cost you 1,300 gold, and it can be as cheap as 800 gold. What do you think? Are you going to try out a bag of splinters in your next campaign? If you have any other D&D ideas that you want me to do the math for, write me a comment. Other than that, thank you for watching the video, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.